And then later on, we'll be talking to our special guest today, is Paul Wade, who is an adopted Manc living here after coming from Canada. And he knows more probably about Manchester, Greater Manchester history, local history, than probably many of us who've lived here for decades. And we stumbled across him. I stumbled across him on his Facebook page and his YouTube channel, where he makes little films. He's worked in the film and television industry in his homeland of Canada, but here he's making little videos himself, telling us about how places got their names, how buildings became created, and how statues are where they are, why they're where they are. So now I've been banging on all morning telling you about my guest Paul Wade, who here he is with us now in the studio, and he knows a lot more about Manchester and the surrounding areas in terms of the history and quirky stories than many of us who've lived here all our lives. Well, not yet, hopefully. But he's not even from here, he's from Canada. Yeah, from Canada.
That's right.
And you're very welcome. So you're a Man-Canadian.
A Man-Canadian, I call it sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And what brings you to Manchester, Paul?
Well, the short answer, my wife got a job here and we moved here. But we've always wanted to live here. We've been visiting here 20, 30 years, and we've always wanted to live in this country. And our children were getting that age where if we don't move now, they're not going to want to move as teenagers.
Right. So they primary school age currently?
Well, they're teenagers now.
Oh, I see.
But at the time they were, that primary age.
So do they have a lovely mix of Canadian and Manc accent?
I think they do, but not when they're at home. But I think they do when they're talking to their friends.
Yeah.
But not so much at home. I can't hear it anyway.
I've just discovered some Canadian relatives, actually, and they emigrated from Belfast many years ago. My generation, so my dad's first cousin family, and they were coming over to Belfast for some Irish dancing competitions recently, and I thought, if they can come all the way from Canada, I can hop over from Manchester. So over I went and met them, and for the first time, and that was all through social media. It was brilliant that is now a function of social media, that you can you can either meet people you've not seen for ages or come across new relatives, as I did, and went to Belfast, and they're from the Toronto area. But you're further east, aren't you?
Yeah, Toronto's probably almost as far as here is to where I'm from in Canada.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, we don't get that kind of scale.
It's so big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
so big, and not many people, apart from in the centralised areas.
Yeah, I mean, there's less people than in this country.
You see, that is bonkers. So there's, what is this, 60, how many millions have we got here? 60 million or something?
Yeah. I think it's about 40 in Canada.
And the vast area.
Well, the province I'm from, Newfoundland and Labrador, it's called, and it's bigger than the UK.
Yeah.
One province.
That's crazy.
And there are 10, and 2 territories. Three territories, is it now?
It reminds me of a joker, but from Canada said, yeah, well, I can get in my car and drive for 3 hours and still not get to the end of my land. And the Irish fella said, I used to have a car like that.
I think that's a Texan joke.
It is a Texan joke, but I adapted it, seamlessly.
You can do that, yes.
Until
we do that with jokes.
Until you outed me there. Yeah. Now, so you're very welcome to BBC Radio Manchester, and you've been in Manchester a while now. And I first stumbled across your work on YouTube and Facebook. I don't know why, somebody must have reposted it, and it was the video that you made about Brooklands, which is the area that I live near.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this guy knows what he's doing. A, he knows what he's talking about, and B, he knows what he's doing in terms of making a little film. And I suppose that's another element of social media. In our day, when we were young, if you wanted to make a film, you'd have to be either wealthy or have all the gear, or know people who could help you out with cameras and boom mics and all the rest of it.
Not to mention a camera was the size of a car.
A Mini, yeah, it was correct. Whereas now you can do it on your phone or with other. But you've got that kind of filmmaking background, haven't you?
Yeah, I worked in film for 25 years, I guess, and I've stopped since I moved here, and I haven't completely given up on it. So I may go back to it. I don't think I'm allowed to move to Manchester without doing a day on Corrie.
No, well, It's spitting distance from here. You probably saw the sign when you walked down. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. But your own little films, it encapsulates two of my great interests. One is, filmmaking, and the other is local history. And I was talking to a few people, pals, and we're a bit embarrassed that an incomer like yourself seems to have done far more research and knows a lot more than the rest of us who've lived here for decades. Why are you so interested?
Well, I've always been interested in history, and I'll just correct you a little bit. I don't know a lot about Manchester and Brooklands and whatnot, but I do know what I know.
Correct. Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, but I've got a little list here. The Knutsford Highwayman, the Lincoln statue, Brooklands, as we mentioned, including the architect Brogden, Balloon Street, Where Are All the Bluebells, Mitchell and Kenyon, 100 Great Reasons to Live in Greater Manchester, Manchester's Abandoned Castle, Where Did All the Water Go for Sale Water Park, and Dr. White's Bridge, and John Alcock, etc. So there you go. There's a very long list just from my scribblings.
Yeah. Well, we have a connection to Alcock and Brown because that's where they left from.
They left from
St.
Newfoundland.
John's, Newfoundland, yeah.
Yeah. And they're buried in Southern Cemetery, aren't they?
John Alcock is, yeah.
Yeah.
See, there we go. We were talking about pronunciations of names earlier. And where I come from, it's Eamonn.
My name would be Eamonn,
It would be Eamonn, and we say Alcock.
Not Alcock.
Alcock, you say here, yeah.
Well, now we're on pronunciations and accents, I suppose. Sheila and I went to see, just before lockdown in London, the fantastic musical Come From Away.
Right.
Which is set in your part of the world.
It is, yeah.
It's the little town of... Oh, God, it just escaped me.
Gander.
Thank you, Gander. At 9/11.
Right.
So the story is all these planes that were in the air during the 9/11 catastrophe were all diverted and landed in Gander, and the population overnight blossomed from 1,000. I'm making the figures up, to about 5,000 or 6,000.
Oh yeah.
With all these passengers.
It really did, yeah.
And the community of Gander pulled together and looked after them, and it's a great story. And this musical is brilliant, but there's a lot of Irish and Scottish influence in the music. Certainly represented in this show, but the accent as well. That I don't know how authentic the actors' accents were, but
I haven't heard it, but yes, there's a very strong Irish influence.
Yeah, it's a weird mix, and the pronunciations. That's what got me onto it when you say about pronunciations.
You just reminded me of a really funny story. I laughed when you said 9/11, which is not funny, but on that day, everybody remembers where they were on that day, of course. And I think me and the person I was with were the only two people on the planet that were doing what we were doing that day, which is cutting down a Christmas tree.
Right.
September
As you
11th.
would, yeah.
So we were working on a Christmas special for CBC television. So you don't shoot Christmas specials during Christmas. You shoot them months before, of course. And we were cutting down a Christmas tree for this Christmas special. And we were shooting in like a manor house, you'd guess it called, quite a grand house. And it's turned into a B&B.
Right.
And so we've got the place completely decked out for Christmas. Like, it's TV Christmas. You can imagine what this place looked like. So as you said, St. John's has a large airport as well. So everything over the Atlantic was diverted to Newfoundland, which is the name of the show. And what happened, everybody was diverted to Newfoundland, the closest part of North America. So we got all the planes that were over the Atlantic Ocean and everywhere. So here are all these refugees with nowhere to stay. I mean, we don't have the accommodations, even in St. John's, a city, the size of Sale, I guess. We don't have the accommodations for thousands and thousands and thousands of extra people. So they ended up in this bed and breakfast. So here are these people, the world is coming to an end, planes crashing into buildings, never in this place, never heard of this place, St. John's, Newfoundland. Where's this place? And they walk into this B&B and it's Christmas. It was absolutely surreal.
So not only have they landed in a strange place, they've landed 2 months in the future. Yeah, fantastic.
It was totally surreal.
Excellent. So my guest is Paul Wade, and I'm going to quiz Paul on some of the films he's made about the local history. BBC Radio Manchester. My guest is Paul Wade, an adopted Manc from Newfoundland. Labrador on the very east coast of Canada. Local historian, mosaicist, if that's the right term, ceramic, musician, filmmaker, creative, an all-round good creative.
I like to call myself a man in a shed that makes things.
Right, and ceramicist is probably the word I was looking for.
It could be. It could be.
Is the one for mosaicist?
I don't know.
No, well, let's invent one.
There you go.
Yeah, you go. But listen, let's talk about some of the films you made on and published on YouTube and through your Facebook. And although, let's get one thing out of the way. You're not called Paul Wade on YouTube, are you?
No,
on
it's
Facebook.
Wicked Acorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Arthur Paul Tist as well.
Yes, that's my Facebook handle. But there's Wicked Acorn on Facebook as well.
Wicked Acorn, right. Yeah. So...
there's a funny little story behind that, actually.
Okay, go on.
Wicked Acorn. It's people ask me, where you came up with the name, and it's actually an anagram of my wife's surname and mine, my children's surname.
Yeah.
So Wade and Cornick. It's an anagram of that.
Clever.
Wicked Acorn.
Hey, you never stop, do you? Never stop thinking creatively.
No, it's all fun.
The one of your films I've seen most recently, and I did know a little bit about this, was Why the Hell Is There a Statue of Abraham Lincoln in Manchester?
Yeah, I just finished that one. That was interesting because why is there a statue of Abraham Lincoln here? Yeah, so it's a very interesting story. In the cotton famine, I guess people have heard about the cotton famine, and during the American Civil War, there was no cotton, and Lancashire was really hard hit. So they decided to back the North against their own best interests and abolish slavery.
So the cotton was coming from the South, which was the Confederate States.
That's right.
Which was obviously helping the livelihood of the cotton workers here in Lancashire.
Yeah.
But they took a stand at great hardship to themselves.
Incredible, yeah. Incredible hardship. We can't even imagine it. We can't imagine what these people were going through. They had a hard enough life to start with, but to take what little income they had away, it must have been absolutely devastating.
And the Lincoln connection is what?
Well, the Lincoln connection, they decided, they wrote a letter to Lincoln, backing him. It's quite a lengthy letter, and he wrote a lengthy letter back to them, thanking them and backing their...
Thanking them for the kind of transatlantic solidarity.
Yeah. I mean, it was a dangerous time too, because there was so much much devastation that the people and the country was almost going to enter the war with the Confederates. So it was the letter from Manchester made some impact.
So England was about to enter the war on the side of the Confederates.
Well, they had to end the blockade. It was just
in order that the blockade would be lifted.
Yeah, the cotton was just not coming. There was 2,500 mills down to 500 in a few months.
Yeah, and when you put it in context, the actions of the people of Manchester and other parts of Lancashire, because we were in Lancashire then, obviously, Greater Manchester didn't exist, obviously, clearly. It's very hard to imagine the hardship that was self-inflicted in order to make a stand for what they felt was right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So he didn't send the statue. He sent a letter.
He sent a letter, yes, and the statue showed up. I think it was made in 1914, and it was supposed to go to London to the Houses of Parliament, and ended up here after the war.
Great, and it's handily in Lincoln Square.
Yes, I don't know which came first.
Yeah, and I was talking to Asma, the presenter of the breakfast program this morning, and she said she mentioned this, randomly mentioned Lincoln's statue, and said she passed it so many times. And this is what happens: you walk past something, a building or a structure or a road or a canal or whatever it is, because it's so familiar. It's that familiar you rarely see it properly, and it's only when you take the time to either look up or stop and look down that you get the story. And so she was familiar with the statue, kind of familiar with the story, but didn't realise there was an inscription on the plinth.
Yeah.
which is an extract from his letter, I think, is it?
Well, it is. Maybe I have fresh eyes coming to it.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
You definitely do.
Some things don't fit, and I notice that they don't fit.
Yeah.
Like the crane in Sale, for instance. It's like, I mean, people from Sale will know it, and well, anywhere along the Bridgewater Canal, because they're every couple of miles, or they used to be. And what is this crane? Why is there a crane here? It made no sense why there's a crane there.
On the banks of the canal?
Yeah, there's one right next to Sale Bridge. There, as I said, there are several along the canal. And that was like, why is that thing there? So I looked into it, and there's a video on that as well.
And the reason is what?
Well, it's called a stop plank crane. And it's to, the Bridgewater Canal is all on one level from the mines in Worsley all the way out to Runcorn. It's all one level. So if you poke a hole in it anywhere, it all drains out. So there are no locks, so there's no way to keep the water in if there's a breach. So every couple of miles they installed these slots along the canal so they could block off a section. So if there was a breach or if they wanted to do maintenance. So there are these cranes that they can lift these logs into to section off.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with your new fresh eyes and curiosity, which is a fantastic thing, to be curious is a fantastic thing.
It killed the cat.
Well, it did, but it's doing you no harm, is it, with this newfound kind of hobby/career? Because I've walked past that crane a million times, or one of them at least. And, if my grandson Harry would have asked me what it was for, I would have made something up.
Yeah, of course.
I would have made something up, which I'm good at, rather than actually done some proper research. The same with, although I did know this, but if you stopped anyone outside there, if you did what we call a vox pop in the business, as you know, where was the first airport in Manchester? You might get Ringway, you might get Barton, or you might even get Wythenshawe, not Ringway, but near Wythenshawe Park, Northern Moor. But actually, the first flight from Manchester, the Manchester area, was none of those things. Now, I actually know this because I did. Somebody told me years ago. But there'll be somebody right now on a tram going down from Shude Hill toward Victoria Station along this very street thinking, I wonder why the hell this is called Balloon Street.
Yeah.
And here's a Canadian from Newfoundland to tell us.
Well, Balloon Street is named after James Sadler, who was the first English aeronautist, I think they eventually ended up calling him. And he was not a hot air balloon, it was actually hydrogen. And this guy was a baker in Oxford, I think he was from. And because that video is quite a while ago, so I'm digging back into the archives here now. And he made his own hydrogen. There was actually no name. Is hydrogen the first element? I think it is.
Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon,
very
nitrogen,
good.
oxygen.
Do you know the song? Can you sing it?
I can't sing it, and I can't get much further into the periodic table than hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and then a fade out.
Right. Well, you've outdone me. I'm asking if hydrogen's the first element.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was no name. Hydrogen hadn't even been named. So he made hydrogen himself, a baker.
Yeah, as you would.
And he made a hydrogen balloon, and it was, and he put it off to because there were no crowds. They would use They would get the crowds to pay,
Crowdfunding.
Yeah, crowdfunding. Yeah,
Of
exactly.
18th century crowdfunding.
Exactly. Yes, that's what it was. So he, I think it was his fifth flight. His fifth flight was from Manchester, and he took off from Balloon Street, a back garden in where Balloon Street is now. And that's
why it's called that.
That's why it's called Balloon Street, yeah.
Don't you just love this kind of stuff? Absolutely fantastic. I've only got Paul till 1, so we're going to squeeze as much in. And it's not the test. We're not trying to trip him up and see how much he knows. We'll go through some of his videos. But my guest is Paul Wade, and brought me a lovely gift, which is a mug with a mosaic of a bee, and it's a Wicked Acorn. That's so you've done that yourself. That's what you do with your mosaics.
Yeah, I make mosaics. Yeah.
Wow. In your shed.
the bee is, of course, very popular.
Were you aware before you came to Manchester of the significance of the bee? I mean, it's proliferated since the bomb.
I remember when the bombings happened.
Yeah.
I remember seeing about the people getting tattoos and stuff. But no, I had no idea that it was such a...
Yeah, interesting though. It's been around a long, long time
Yes,
as a symbol, as you probably know, because it's on the coat of arms of the city of Manchester.
Yeah.
And I went to school at St Bede's College in Whalley Range, and the school badge had bees on it as well,
nice.
As well as a cardinal's hat, because it was a Catholic school. But the bee has represented the industry of the Mancunians. I referred to earlier with the cotton knit trade and other things, the ship canal and all the canals and every other aspect of industry and endeavour. But the Manchester Arena bomb was when the bee reinvented itself, I think, as the symbol. And it's great. You know, I mean, bees are so important to us all, aren't they? And there's a lot of kind of synergy to it all. But I appreciate the mug. Thanks very much.
Well, there's one thing with that bee. Did you have to go there?
No, go on. You carry on.
There's one thing
We're very
with the
flexible.
bee that maybe your listeners can help out with, and you can reach me at Wicked Acorn on Facebook or on the YouTube channel. But about the bee, I did a video about the Oliver Cromwell statue in Wythenshawe Park.
Yeah, that used to be outside what was Central Station.
That's right. And who was the lady? She was the wife of Abel Haywood, is that right?
Yeah, Haywood, yeah.
Yeah, she was his wife. She was widowed, so she was the wife of the mayor before Abel Haywood as well.
Right.
And apparently, I haven't been able to find this out, but apparently the reason the bee was put in the coat of arms is because the bee was in her previous husband's coat of arms.
Right.
So there's some
That's
connection
interesting.
there, but I haven't been able to verify that. I don't know.
Right, and Abel Haywood, he was involved with the whole Peterloo thing, wasn't he? The massacre.
There was some
He was
involvement
part of the
there, yeah.
march down from the north of the city down into the city for that's a whole kind of area of Manchester's history that is well documented.
Yeah, that's another conundrum at the moment. We got into the Eyebrow Cottage, which you probably know.
I was talking about Eyebrow Cottage only yesterday. I drove past it with Sheila.
Yes.
And it was some sort of workshop or garage mechanics place. And now it's
been so many
skincare.
things.
It's a skincare place now. Open last
she
week.
does eyebrows.
She does eyebrows.
It's funny. But the Eyebrow Cottage, it's the oldest house in Sale, 1680, I think. Oldest house in Trafford. And there's actually a connection that I haven't verified this one yet either, so if anyone knows anything about this, you can let me know as well. John Moore, I think his name was a former occupant, and he was one of the militia, the volunteers that were involved in Peterloo as well. So I'm trying to find that connection.
Eyebrow Cottage, as you said, is the oldest building in Trafford, and it's called Eyebrow Cottage because over the windows on the facade, the brickwork imitates eyebrows.
Yeah,
the
it's
eyebrows
kind of
over
a
the
funny
window.
looking arch.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Funny, I just was talking about it yesterday. Isn't it weird? So if you've got any further information about Eyebrow Cottage or John Moore or Abel Haywood's widow or the origins of the bee, we've got Paul for another 20 minutes. You can text 81333, start your text with the word Manc, or you can give us a quick ring if you want to join in. We're very easy going here. 0800 218 2255 and it's a free phone number, so we even pay the bill for you. Had a text in, Paul, while he's been like a ventriloquist drinking a glass of water. Can you talk at the same time? Love listening to you and pay Paul Wade. This is from Lizzie, and Lizzie says, I'm sure he made me a bee table when I saw his stall at Sale Mikey's Market a few years ago.
Yeah, well, I can't confirm that it's her, but it sounds right.
Yeah, thank you, Lizzie.
Yeah, I made some bee tables, yeah. Mosaic tables.
So one of your videos is 100 Great Reasons to Live in Greater Manchester. And once again, I imagine that I'm not going to ask you for all 100, don't worry. But because we have grown up here, we do take it for granted, as I said earlier. And I remember being away once, and I saw on the local TV channel abroad a travel show that was featuring Manchester, and I thought, wow, that looks like a fantastic place to live. or to visit. I thought, well, actually, I live there. I could visit all those places. And it's that kind of thing, never a profit in your own land. So just pick out a few things as you've come over with your family from Canada. How much does it cost, by the way, for a visa or whatever you need?
Oh, God, it's incredible. It's gone up 10 grand in the past 5 years. Well, I don't know when it went up, but it's gone up 10 grand. It's like 18,000 now.
So it was 8 grand
that's
for your
for
first
the family.
one? For the whole family, yeah. So it's a lot of money to find, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gone up. The NHS surcharge has gone up quite a lot.
Ah, right. That's right. Well, we don't want to get too political about it, but
So if you would like to buy a Manchester Mosaic B table,
yeah, for £18,000.
if you want to get rid of me, you know how to do that too.
So pick out some of your reasons why it's great to live in Greater Manchester.
You have no snow.
And there speaks a man from Newfoundland and Labrador.
Oh my God, we just had. I'm so glad I missed this one, but they had 6 feet of snow over 2 days.
Oh, we can't imagine that.
They had to call in the army. It was.
But if you grow up there, you must be used to that.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it any fun.
Doesn't make life any easier.
No, it's horrible. Yeah, you guys love to complain about the weather, but you don't know how good you have it.
No. Okay, so the weather is one. Yeah,
the weather is one. I don't want to get political about it, but I think you've got some things going on here that Canada is lacking in.
Would benefit from, such as education.
Yeah, education. Your education system's a little better. I can only comment to that because education is provincial in Canada.
Yeah.
So each province has their own education system. And my kids are getting a better education here than they would back home for sure.
What about the cliche, if it is a cliche, that we're very friendly?
Oh, you are. You are. Yeah. I feel at home. I feel at home because Newfoundlanders are very friendly people too, but Mancunian people are fantastic.
We've got some extended family members who have moved up, who have immigrated from London. And they're well used to it now and they love it. But the one thing that they noticed, and again, it's a bit of a cliche, people chatting to them, for no reason and without knowing them, just on the street or in a shop or on the trams or public transport, just striking up a conversation, which actually suits our family members because that's what they're like.
Yeah.
But you don't get that in London. Now, I don't know whether it's a cliche or whether it is actual fact that, knocking around Manchester and Greater Manchester, people would just strike up a conversation as if they've known you for years.
Well, and they got their heads up and they acknowledge you as you walk down the street. I love that when you make the eye contact and, hey, good morning. Doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced that in London as such.
So just to be self-indulgent for a little bit, because I live in Sale as well, and I was fascinated by the video that you made about Sale and Brooklands. Now, I always thought Brooklands, was it Samuel Brooks?
That's right.
Or Joshua Brooks? It was Samuel Brooks. And was he the T-man, Brook Bond, or was he... he was an industrialist anyway, wasn't he?
I think he was a banker.
Right. And he bought lots of lands.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Brooklands, is it?
It's named after Brooks, Samuel Brooks.
And the reason that there's it's now a tram, but a railway line is because he paid for it.
I don't think he paid for it. He guaranteed the station. So he said if it didn't make whatever amount in ticket sales in whatever amount of time it was, he would pay for it.
Right.
But of course it did.
It
exceeded that by far.
So workers in in that world who would be working in a grimy, unhealthy inner city, those who could afford it could then live further out and travelling.
That was the idea, yeah, for sure.
And Brogden, there's a Brogden Grove just round the corner from me.
Yeah.
And I think I learnt from your video that the guy Brogden was the architect who designed Victoria Station.
I think that was my mate, Rick.
Oh, was that your mate?
Ainsworth.
No, there's not two of you, is there?
Yeah, well, Rick's working with me on the Eyebrow Cottage video.
Right.
But yes, he did the I don't know a lot about Brogden because I didn't work on that video. But yeah, he did the station here in Manchester. Yeah.
And without trying to put you on the spot in terms of your memory, the one that another one that struck out was Manchester's abandoned castle. And I think the script...
Greater Manchester's abandoned castle.
Greater Manchester's abandoned castle.
Because it's in Bowden, Altrincham.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah,
so
on the border there.
Can you remember enough about that to tell us that story?
I could tell you some lies about that.
I love it. Make it up. That's my MO as well. Yeah. Go on then. Make something up. Well, we're only joking. He does know his stuff.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because I love all that medieval stuff, and I mean, who doesn't? The knights and all that kind of stuff. That's fascinating stuff. And yeah, there's the remains of a Motte and Bailey castle in I guess it's on the border of Bowden there, Watch Hill Castle it's called. So that would have been the Battle of Hastings. Shortly after that they...
Really?
Yeah.
How do you know? How do you know it's there? Is there evidence of it still?
Yeah, well, the Motte and Bailey are still there. So, yeah, if you know what you're looking for, you can certainly see it. And if you go there, you can...
So give us a bit of it. Is it near, Bowden Langmarts? Is it near the Griffin? Let's go by pubs.
See, that's the thing. I don't know.
No, fair enough.
I don't know. It's near the Bowden roundabout there. It's where it's called Watch Hill Castle because I assume it was to watch where the A56 crosses the... Oh,
the roundabout where the motorway is now?
Yeah.
Right, yes, well that makes sense because that is higher ground there. You can look down into Manchester from there.
So that was the Roman road, of course, the A56.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So the road was there in the early 11th century. So
wow.
They built it there to watch that river crossing.
Fantastic. Liz has been on the text. I'm finding this history of Manchester fascinating. You mentioned, or Paul mentioned, John Moores, and I wondered whether he was an ancestor of John and Cecil Moore of Littlewood's fame. I
do not know.
We do. Neither of us knows that, Liz. Probably, I'm guessing not, but just because they've got the same surname, it'd be a heck of a connection between a Peterloo militiaman and mail order millionaires. But you never know.
Could be.
You never know. Well, I could talk to you for another hour or so, but time is against us, and I appreciate you coming in on a Sunday. Just remind us where we can find your stuff on social media.
Well, it's Wicked Acorn wherever you go.
Wicked Acorn, yeah.
And so wickedacorn.com is my website, and Wicked Acorn on YouTube, and Wicked Acorn on Facebook.
It's easy enough. Well, where does the Arthur Paul Tist come into it then?
Arthur Paul Tist. That was I was kind of anti-social media, kind of still anti-Facebook. But my wife, I didn't want to get on it, but it became a necessity with the mosaic work and stuff. And my wife set up this silly account, and it was Artist.
Oh, like artist. Get it.
Yeah, that was the name. And he had thousands of friends, and nobody knew who he was. It's a little statement on Facebook in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and a gag as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like gags. Have you noticed that about Manchester, actually? The sense
I
of
like
humour?
that because that's the thing. It's really familiar to me. It feels like home.
And everything I've heard about Gander from the musical and research following the musical, and your part of the world, Newfoundland and Labrador, I get that because there's a lot of influence from the British Isles and Ireland, from the Irish fishermen from the north of Ireland, Donegal, Belfast, Scotland. Yeah. They were fishing in the fishing grounds off Newfoundland, weren't they?
Yeah.
And that's where the influence comes from. So you're bound to have got we're virtually Celtic, aren't you?
Well, I was listening to this station one day, actually, and somebody said, "Fill your boots."
Yeah.
I thought that was a Newfoundland expression.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting.
Because if you say that to anyone else in Canada, they don't know what you're talking about.
Wow, how interesting.
There are quite a few. There are quite a few
really,
sayings.
Fill your boots. Now, fill your boots we would regard that as a proper Manc saying. Can I have some of that? Yeah, fill your boots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant. So there's far more of a connection than we think, really.
There is. I mean, I don't know. I have never heard of any connection to Manchester itself specifically, but
No.
But there must be one somewhere.
Well, perhaps it intersects with, our part of the world has been heavily influenced by Irish immigration.
That must be it.
From the famine days.
Yeah.
And, of course, we're all multi-ethnic now. That we've got lots of Scottish people here, Welsh and Irish and Cornish and, everybody. The Celts are very influential around this part, and that will have gone over with those. They weren't pioneers as such. They were fishermen largely, weren't they, and who stayed over.
Yeah, I went on a tour of Ireland many years ago, and the guy pointed up to, I think it was in Waterford, and there's a plaque on the wall about the migratory fishery.
Yeah.
And 9,000 people would descend on Waterford to go to the migratory fishery in Newfoundland. And he pointed up and he said, "Now let me tell you about the real Ireland." And he pointed to a plaque about Newfoundland. He didn't do it for my benefit.
Well, no, it just shows you though. But by association, then the Manchester, the Greater Manchester culture has intersected with your Newfoundland culture, and you might see that in manifested in your kids because they're now blended, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. As I said, I don't hear it much at home, but when I hear them speaking to their friends, you hear it a little bit.
Yeah, not just the accent though. Their outlook.
Oh, I think they're totally immersed.
Are they?
Yeah.
And do they like it
Well,
here?
they've spent half their lives here.
Yeah, you don't think it like that. And when the time comes, I know they're only teenagers now, but will they settle, or would they hanker after going back to the homeland?
Well, that was the reason to do it before teenager.
Yeah, so...
But yeah, there's still a bit of that, the fond memories of
How did they find
childhood.
it, landing in a very strange country as a young child?
It's a big adventure.
Yeah.
So they...
Well, I admire you greatly for doing it. And I must say, Paul, his real name is Paul Wade, but you can find him on wickedacorn.com. I've thoroughly enjoyed all your stuff on social media and your videos on YouTube and your website, and thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, not just because you brought me a nice Beeb mosaic mug either. I can have my cup of tea if Chris ever gets around to making me one in that, but it's been great, and we're virtually neighbours, so you never know, now we know what each other looks like, we might come across each other in Sale. Thanks very much for taking the time to come and see us.
Well, thank you.
Wickedacorn.com. Right, let's get this track up to the news. It's Take That. I've had loads of calls about our previous guest, Paul Wade. What an interesting bloke Paul is. I nearly said was. He was like with us, but he is, because he's still knocking about on his way home. Wicked Acorn is his website, wickedacorn.com. Local history galore. Loads of lovely little 2.5, 3 minute videos, 4 minute videos about the history of Greater Manchester. And he's from Canada. Well, he's from the Far East, and this blows you away. He's from Newfoundland, near St. John's, and it's further from his house to Toronto than it is from here to Canada. And there are 63 million people in the UK, are there? About 63 million. And you don't really think about how tightly packed we are in Canada, which is vast. Newfoundland is bigger than the UK. That's one territory. And there's only 40-odd million people on the whole part of the continent. It's unbelievable. Messages still keep coming in on the back of our chat with Paul Wade, guest between 12 and 1. Guy from Canada, has come from Newfoundland, lives in Manchester the last 5 or 6 years with his wife and kids. He's a filmmaker, a ceramicist, a mosaicist. What do you call someone who does mosaics? Mosaicist. Is there a word? I'm sticking with artist for now, but is there a so if you work with ceramics, you're a ceramicist, I imagine. Painter, you're a paintist, clearly. If you work with sculptures, you're a sculptist. So with mosaics, I'm going for mosaicist. That's what I'm going for. But also a musician, historian, all round really interesting guy. So if you want to find out more about what he knows about where we live, he's come and see it with fresh eyes. His website address is wickedacorn.com, which is a great name. It's It's an anagram of a mixture of his and his partner's surnames. wickedacorn.com.